Hello and welcome to this jazz guitar lesson. I'm Chris Whiteman and thanks for joining me. Today's lesson is going to be a part 2 of our previous lesson on 2-5-1 pathways, and I will put a link to that video in this video description, and I suggest that you watch that video first so you get a clear understanding of what we're doing. So we're going to take the pathway from part 1 and we're going to add material to it and really look at creating a more sophisticated line out of this pathway. And we're going to do this by adding 4 elements. We're going to add an approach note, we're going to add chromaticism, we're going to add rhythmic variety, as well as some melodic content. And we're going to do this all while retaining the overall shape of the original pathway. Alright, so let's look at the original pathway from last lesson. And just a reminder, we're dealing with a 2-5-1 in the key of C. So D minor 7, G7, C major 7. So the original pathway was this. And we're going to build that out today, and what we're going to end up with is this. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at all the elements that I've added to the original pathway. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a chromatic approach into the beginning of that pathway. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and... Okay, so what we did there is we added a note to the beginning of the phrase. And I still want to start the phrase on the downbeat, so that note is going to come an 8th note before the downbeat of the measure. So it's going to come on the end of 4. And when you start a phrase on an upbeat, it creates syncopation. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. Right? So very simple in concept, but it's quite effective. And then the next thing we did is we changed the resolution into the 3rd. So the original pathway, I went stepwise from the D. I went D to the C, which is my flat 7, into the 3rd of G7. And just a reminder, this 7th of the D minor, which is the note C, into the 3rd of the G7 is our voice leading between the harmonies. So we want to keep that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that line chromatic. Instead of stepwise, it's going to become straight chromatic descending. But I've added a note, so rhythmically it's no longer going to line up. So I have to compress the rhythm so that I can get everything to fall in the right place. So now what happens is you get 1 and triplet. And that puts me falling on the 3rd of G7 right on beat 3 where I want it. So if I put those 2 changes together, we get this. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, and triplet. Right? And if we just finish the line, 3, 4. Right? Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to add some more rhythmic variety and almost like an embellishment, and we're going to do that with the flat 9, which is that A flat. So what we're going to do, right? So instead of, it becomes, and that's a 16th note triplet. So without the triplet, with the triplet, and now our line becomes this. Right? And because we're targeting that flat 9, it's actually highlighting that alteration, which, as we discussed in the previous lesson, is a tension note. So we're creating dissonance by using that flat 9. All right, so far, 1, 2, 3, 4. the original pathway, we just sat on the third of C major. So we sat on E and let it ride. What we're going to do now is we're going to add a little piece of melodic content on the end of that. So instead of resting on E, I'm going to resolve to the E and immediately add some melodic content. And so I went 3, 5, 6, 7 on that C major 7. So now I have a little piece of melody at the end. And if we put it all together, we get this. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, and so that's our, we can say, embellishment of the original pathway, or our building it out to add some sophistication. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take this new line and we want to reflex it through all 12 keys. So we're going to move through the cycle of fourths. All right, thanks so much for joining me. I hope you found this information useful, and I'll see you next time.